Hello, I'm here today to speak with Reece Manigan, talking about his new film Pine, which is coming out this Halloween. So, Reece, this is your sixth indie feature film. Before we talk about Pine, how does it feel to reach six feature films?
Um, I feel like I've reached a huge milestone. I mean, I never thought I'd ever do six big films, let alone one, to be honest. It all happened by accident with the first film, with Big Crime in a Small Town, because that was potentially supposed to be a short film, but then we just extended it into a 46-minute film. And then I remember seeing when I edited it and I put it all together, I was like, holy shit, the film's almost an hour long. And then I remember telling Charlie, saying, we've actually made a movie here, if you know about it. He's like, really? I said, yeah, it's 46 minutes long. And he was like, that is a long film. And I was like, yeah, but it's good because it means we've made our very first movie. And, we're both 22 years old, so we're still young. We've made a first feature film. And so he was like, yeah, that's great. So we it was funny because then it started to niggle in me that I was like, I really want to try and do another big film, but maybe that won't happen until another couple of years. But then obviously when I came and moved to London in 2015, I was already planning my second big film because I thought, well, I'm in London, I'm gonna kind of take advantage and meet some actors and see if I can get another film done. And obviously, I was in uni and I worked with a few uni actors and stuff. And I made Cold Street because of that. And then the confidence of making those two films just made me grow into doing Cash in the Pond in 2017, and then obviously the big Wonders of Alice and Looking Glass films afterwards. And so I just can't believe that I've made this many now. So to reach Pine and to know that I'm now in my 29 in my late 20s, just perfect. I've reached six before I hit 30. So I thought that's a good number to end it before you hit your 30s.
Yeah, no, that is brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Um, so you've made a lot of horror short films, but this is your first horror feature. Why did it take you up to six films to finally make a horror?
um, well, I mean, horror's never really left me. It's always been in my DNA, I guess. I love. I've always loved darkness and dark films and everything that's dark. In even in kids' movies, I just love the darkness side of everything. Um, but yeah, horror just never left me. I mean, even when you watch my previous films, like Alice and Looking Glass, everything, there's always like horror moments in those films, and even my very first feature film, in a way, is kind of like was like a bit of a horror because it was about a serial killer who's going around doing his little missions and he's manipulating people and turning them into animals and stuff like that, which is kind of a horror in itself. So horror's never really kind of left as I said, it's never really left my brain. And obviously, my favorite films, my top three are The Shining, Clockwork Orange, and Silence of the Lambs. And obviously, I also love Thoroughbreds, Split, and Misery, and Jaws, and other horror films as well. And it's like I really wanted to make another film, and it had to be a horror film. So I thought that's the perfect film to round up the six. And with the short films, they were kind of like big practices. I mean, I remember making Slice Like a Fox. That was I remember writing that script, and I made it very horrorish, very gruesome and bloody and violent. But unfortunately, people didn't like the script because they said it was too violent and too gruesome for them to be in, and they were like, "This is a bit too heavy." And I thought, okay, I can understand what you mean, and so I shelved that film. And then a year later, I went back to it and I rewrote a more tame script, but still had a violent idea in my brain, which was still about a man in a fox mask killing people. And so when I rewrote that and tamed it into a better
I'm
film, bless you.
sorry. I'm sorry.
um, Once I tamed it and rewrote another script and made it into another film, it was much more, in a way, it was better because it was psychological, but you could also get a bit of the violence into it. And I realized that now that's what people do like, and that is what the horror genre has turned to. So when I did my second horror, which was called You Shouldn't Be Here, Again, that was more of a build-up psychological, then the violence comes straight at the end. Because obviously, people seem to now love a build-up, and then at the end, it's like the big finale. And I can understand that. I mean, films like, for example, Pyewacket, and there was another horror film I watched on Netflix called The Boy. Not about the puppet, but I'm talking about an actual real boy. It's an independent film, but in Australia, I think it was filmed. And those films are films where they build up the horror. And at the very end, they have this really dark finale. I mean, obviously, I won't spoil it for viewers who haven't seen the films, but the finales in those films are so shocking that you realise the build up to all that was worth it. And so I thought, you know what, that is what I'm going to kind of go for with Pine. So when people watch the film, that's what they're going to see that wherefore. So yeah, that's kind of what I've kind of gone for, really.
No, I've got to admit, I'm really excited to see it. I kind of like kind of dark elements to films. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So can you give us a hint of the story or plot for Pine, or no, not just yet?
Um, well, I can give hints of the synopsis, if I've said that word correctly. Basically, it's about a young girl called Penelope who has these very mysterious powers called, and she calls it Pine. I mean, it might not be called Pine, but she calls it Pine. But we don't know what it is. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know how it is and how it varies. And she doesn't even know how she got them in the first place. You know, we don't see where she gets them or how she got them. It's just immediately starts with she has them. That's it. And then it's like, oh, and she doesn't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. And she doesn't know if she has to use them for good or for bad. And while she's trying to discover that, she's also being hunted by these beings of the unknown. We don't know what these things are, but they want her and her powers for their own personal reasons, and that is basically the movie.
Okay. What made you kind of call it Pine, and why is Pine her kind of go-to word for those superpowers?
Well, it's funny you should mention the title about that because what happened was originally I was going to make a remake of Pinocchio because obviously I've done Alice in Wonderland, I've done Peter and the Wolf, and I thought right now Pinocchio might be the next one I want to kind of tackle into, and also I was very inspired, of course, by Steven Spielberg's movie AI, Artificial Intelligence, because that was originally a Kubrick movie that was also going to be based on Pinocchio while also based on a book called Summer Toys Last All Long by Brian Aldiss. And I like that Kubrick used a fairy tale story and a science fiction book and mixed them all together. And for me, I had this idea of making a Pinocchio remake about, but originally this Pinocchio was going to be a girl and she was a normal human girl and she was going to get taken by a bunch of dangerous men. And her name was actually called Pine in the original script.
Okay.
And so what happened was it was going to be a sort of crime thriller movie, but then I wrote the script halfway. I was actually halfway through, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what, this actually isn't going anywhere. This really doesn't seem like it's going at all story wise. Nothing that I would direct. So I kind of deleted the entire lot. And I just thought, you know what, fuck it. Let's just make a horror. Go, I can make any movie I want. I've got no studio holding on to me. I can do whatever I want. I can write whatever I want. So the horror idea then came into that. But the name Pine stuck because apparently I found out that Pinocchio stands for Pinewood in Italian. And I liked that name Pine. I was like, I just like that name. Where can I use that name? And I thought, I don't really want to call a character called Pine because you don't. I mean, calling your child Pine is a bit of a bizarre name.
I've heard
I mean, what's
worse.
their last? I mean, their last name could be Wood for they could be literally called Pine Wood. So it just wouldn't work. So I thought I need to use this name, but how? And then obviously I was inspired by Joker and Doctor Sleep and other horror films, and I thought I kind of like that the name Pine is kind of also mysterious, and I thought, what if it was a power? But how? And obviously I know how I've developed it into the script, but obviously I can't divulge that information until people watch the movie. But it's called Pine for a reason, But yeah, they'll see why it's called that when they watch the movie.
Okay. I cannot wait to watch her, I'm going to be honest. So I think we've got pretty similar inspiration for things that we write, really. Kind of Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, kind of fantasy things, and then also the darkness that comes out of it. So you spoke about artificial intelligence and things like that. That's one of my favorite films. Split is definitely one of my favorite films. So I cannot wait to see what else you bring. Honestly, I'm so excited, for real. So, what else inspired you? Where did you get your inspiration for Pine, other than what you've already spoke about?
Um, well, in talking about inspirations, I mean, obviously, I go through many directors. I mean, Stanley Kubrick, of course, being my number one director, but he's only inspired me in terms of cinematography and tone, and of course, The Shining. Although, to be fair, films like Eyes Wide Shut tend to have some darkness thrown into them as well. I mean, in a way, that movie kind of scared me a little bit when I first watched it. The scene where Tom Cruise's character walks in that giant hall and then there's all them people with all the masks on and everything like that. It was very, very unsettling. And but I loved it. I was just like, wow, this felt like a sort of Shining vibe to it. And you know, so it's kind of like the psychological unsettling aspects. There's also Mike Flanagan, who of course did Doctor Sleep, but he directed a very underrated horror film called Oculus, which is also one of my favorite films, which also terrifies me. I mean, honestly, it does. I wouldn't watch that film at night. It honestly does terrify me. It's a film that I actually have to watch in the day if I plan to watch it. It's like, right, it has to be about lunchtime to watch that film, not before I go to bed. Um, but it was just the way he makes the audience so unsettled with his psychological horror is incredible. But it's also the use of, like, because normally horror films don't have character. They do have characters, but there's no character. They tend to use the old cliche of old teenagers getting killed by a slasher man and all this rubbish. And it's just, but I like the fact that now that there's always involving family issues, which is also quite personal to me, which I like. And you can sort of relate to it as well if you do that. And in a way, Pine is sort of about, like, it is about a girl who has problems going through some dark times in her life. And that's what we're really trying to show as well, is the character. But also as well, it's like with villains as well, even though villains are terrible people, what I like about movies today is you show an understanding of why they are villains. And you also see their reasons why they are what they are. Like, you don't condone what they do, but you also do have a bit of a soft spot for them. And that's what I also have kind of gone for as well with that. And the inspirations for those are just what I tend to go for now in my movies.
Okay, yeah, that sounds brilliant. Yeah. Um, so how long does it normally? Sorry, how long's? I'll wait for you. Good.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. How long does it normally take for you to make a feature film compared to a short film?
Well, it depends on locations and script and actors. Because sometimes I could use, well, in terms of limit of actors, I mean, with short films, I tend to use about three actors, and depending on the story. I mean, to be fair, Slice Like a Fox had about six characters, but we managed to film it in such a short amount of location time. But yeah, short films I would say take about 2 to 3 days, but sometimes they take only just a couple of hours. I mean, Archie and Jim, we always film those episodes in literally one day, and we get them done straight off on the way. Um, with feature films, it tends to be about 3 to 4 months. I mean, I remember but to be fair, when I did my very first one, Big Crime in a Small Town, that took 7 months to complete. And that was from the start of writing the script to the very last moment I finished editing the project. So that was 7 months in a whole. Cold Street was, I'd say that was about 2 months as well. We started in June and we finished in August and released it in August. Then we did Cash in the Pond, which by the way, that was only a month and a half. That was a very quick film. Not very locations either, which I was very surprised about. Wonders of Alice and Looking Glass, they both took 4 months to make in total, because we had a very big cast in both of those films and loads of different locations. And we had so many different scenes to film in separate days. And sometimes I think because, I mean, with Looking Glass, we kind of had to rush that one because we had one day where I was filming a scene somewhere else. I actually went off to be with another actor to go film their scene on another location on the same day, which if I ever do that again, shoot me in the head. It's just like, it was just absolutely mental and hectic. And, you know, but with Pine, it was, we actually had to film this in just a week, which is, I know sounds very tight, but the reason we filmed it so quickly was because we were supposed to be doing this all of last year, but then of course COVID came along and destroyed everything. So I said to the actors, right, look, we're going to film this in the first week of July. No excuses. We can do it now. You know, we can do it that week, and we managed to get it done. I was very surprised that we did, because I remember when we finished shooting, I was thinking, well, we've actually got nothing left to film. Wow, we actually did it. We actually did it in a week. I can't believe it. And but what worried me the most was how long was Pine going to be? Because obviously, if you go past 40 minutes, you've reached feature length time. So I was like, oh, please be over 40 minutes. It has to be. And luckily, Pine is, but I'm not going to say how long it is. But yeah, but most of my other films have managed to make that time. So I'm very lucky that it's just made the final cut to be a feature movie. So
That's brilliant. I really cannot wait to watch it. I'm so intrigued. I really am. So how do you think the audience will take to it?
depends if they like horror, I guess. But I mean, obviously, this film, you know, these films aren't going to be. I mean, as you know, my films aren't masterpieces. They don't look amazing.
Give
And
yourself credit. Honestly, your writing, your acting, your casting, it's brilliant. You know, with art, you got to see behind the kind of, you know, not everybody has all the massive budget to do everything, and everybody starts off somewhere. So just don't.
exactly.
I was really impressed, and I'm a very critical person, so respect my opinion.
Thank you. Well, that's great. That's
Give
great.
yourself some credit.
Well, I will say this then, so viewers know, for who haven't seen my work. They don't look like blockbusters, but I tend to call my films watchable entertainment. And I also tend to call them my portfolio movies, because obviously, as you said, it's about starting somewhere and climbing up the ladder and getting there. And that's what I love doing. But I always treat my projects as if they were very important pieces of work, which of course they are. But Pine, I will say this, it definitely looks very different from my other films visually. I've managed to make it look like a horror in terms of atmosphere and tone. I think the audience will like it, but I will say that as well, it's different because it's very laid back, very more slow burn and psychological. And then, as I said, it comes up to a big finale at the end. So, you know, so I'm aiming for, hopefully people will stick to the story until the big finale comes. I mean, there is a few violent scenes involved, which one scene I was so happy to edit. It looks really good. In fact, I remember showing the draft to Charlie, and he was like, that was actually one of the best parts of the film. So I'm really happy with that part. There's loads of like raw moments where I think the audience will get hooked. So yeah, I think the audience will like it. I don't think everybody will like it, but I think people will like it enough for it to hopefully be a success.
I'm 100% sure that it will be. I really, really, really can't wait to see it. So you tend to work with the same actors, but do you work with different people now and again? And how many familiar faces are in Pine, and how many are new?
The reason I work with most of the same actors is because they're the ones that deserve the show reels. They're my friends. They, you know, if they're reliable and they're great, and I love working with them, then they deserve to get another show reel. But it's nice as well when I get that certain message where, like, for example, if I'm making a film, I'll sometimes get a message from them saying, "Can I be in this one? Because I really enjoy working with you. And I'm like, well, but I don't cast the actors just because, of course, they're my friends. I cast them if I think they're right for the role. Because sometimes what I'll do is if I'm writing a script, I mean, I always think like an editor, whether I'm filming, writing, I think about the film in my brain and I'm thinking, I think so and so could play this role and all that. And I message that person, say, look, I've got this role for you. Here's the script. Would you want to do it? And sometimes, I'll get the yeses and I think perfect, it's there and we start. Or there are times where I've had an actor say, no, I can't do this because of other projects, or I can't do it because I got time. I don't want to let you down and all this. And I think, right, so then it's like, right, the plan B, who do I find to fill in the shoes of that actor? And most of the time I managed to find somebody who, is new to do that. I mean, I remember when I was doing The Wonders of Alice, I had someone who I already worked with who was originally going to play Alice. And then unfortunately she took ill. So she gave me her blessing to go and find somebody else. And then I went up to Zara Sapphire, who plays Alice now. And I said, look, the actress who was supposed to play Alice is now really ill. So would you want to do it? And she lit up and was like, I would love to do it. And she read the script and she loved it. So she was happy to take on board and do it. So, and do you know what? She did an amazing job playing Alice because she really did make the film amazing. And the chemistry as well between us two was there. Because I actually was worried we weren't going to get on when we started shooting. She's so educational and she's so like, film industry is this and film is that. Like she's so logical in all that aspect. But I think I kind of showed her the fun side of it all rather than the serious side. And I think that's why we bounced off so well to each other, because she was like the real serious one and I was like the funny one. And we seemed to kind of gel together because she was teaching me a lot of stuff and I was teaching her a lot of stuff. And so we kind of managed to gel. So if you get a really good bunch of people, the films are going to go so well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have worked with arseholes on my films. There are some who are still on my films, and I think, oh God, if only I could go back in time.
Scribble their face out.
Yeah, or blur them. Or add a celebrity head in the body. But it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you learn from your mistakes and you go, right, I'm not going to work with that person again. I'm not going to work with that person again. And sometimes, unfortunately, I have worked with some actors that have ruined the film so badly that I've had to delete the movie because I can't release it because it's just not going to be for me. So then I will reboot the movie and change it and get some different actors and get real people involved. So with the familiar faces, yeah, there's a few in Pine. We've got Sammy Simmons, who was Michael Hare in the Alice films. We've got Maria, who was Bailey in Looking Glass. She plays Penelope. We've also got Hamish, who's done quite a couple of films for me. He's like the big modern Viking guy, real cool guy. Steve Crawshaw, he was in Alice. He played Dr. Dodo. There was also, just trying to remember who I don't miss anybody out. There's Anna Silverstreet, who I don't know if we've released a film together yet. This might be our first film together, but I have worked with her quite a couple of times. We've just recently done a mental health movie that's going to be coming out sometime later this year. It's a short film that she's made that I am editing. April is also another face who I have worked with, but I think this is our first film released as well. So in a way, she'll be new. And we've also got Jaden, who I haven't released a film yet. He's a brand new guy. He's a fucking good actor, real cool guy to work with. Bo and Ray are familiar faces who are returning as well. But the most best person, well, I wouldn't say the best, I don't want to say who's better than who, but someone who I really enjoyed working with the most, and someone who was brand new, who I've wanted to work with for years, was Rihanna, who is honestly such a wonderful actress, plays an incredible villain in this role, and just does an amazing job playing this real dark character, very gothic witch-looking character. And it's funny as well because she plays this really nasty character, and yet in real life she is like the most loveliest woman I've ever met, and she's just so funny, down to earth. We have a laugh, and you know, and I really am happy that I finally got a chance to work with her, and I'm definitely going to be working with her again in the future, and maybe definitely for horror roles as well, because she's fucking terrifying in this movie. There's no doubt about it. She is fucking terrifying, but she made that film pretty much as it was. So I'm very happy that I got her as my main villain, definitely.
Brilliant. So your next film is Legends of the Siren. Can you give us any update on that feature?
Yes, that's what I like to call the ladder, working on the next one. Yeah, Legend of the Siren, that's not coming out until 2023. I've already got the script in hand and the story. I mean, I was casting that earlier this year, and it's going to be another gothic horror. Much more horror than Pine, I guess I would say. Much more of a story, much more characters, more locations. So it's going to be another probably 3-4 months of my life making this thing. But I will say for sure that this is a movie that's really going to surprise a lot of people. And when I say that, I mean like in terms of the way it's going to turn out. But the Legends of the Siren was a film that was this is definitely going to be based off the Little Mermaid. This is definitely from the Little Mermaid book, not Disney. This is not a musical. Also, it's more influenced as well by the movie Black Narcissist. If you haven't seen that movie, that's an incredible movie because it's a very surprising kind of genre film because it starts off like a drama, then it's like a romance, and then it turns into a horror film. It gets really dark in the last half an hour or so, and very scary, but very, very amazing project. And I really wanted to kind of do something sort of similar-ish. So when Little Mermaids was also in my brain with this, I thought I've got a way where I can turn this film into a real dark horror. And the auditions blew up on my Twitter. I mean, everybody wanted to do this film. Like with Pine, everybody wanted to do this movie. And it was, I think I must have had about 300 auditions emailed to me over all the characters. Wow. It was ridiculous. I woke up and I found so many emails of self-tapes sent to me. And I was just like, oh my God, this is not going to go down easy. But amazingly, I have found my 4 mermaids. They are incredible, wonderful, beautiful, intelligent, very talented young actresses. And I'm very glad to be working with them. And also, we've got a very great actor, Ryan Graham, who is absolutely fantastic, a real cool guy. And he's playing the lead guy. And in terms of familiar faces, we've got David Biscoe and Rennie Costa coming to the film as well. So, but I'm going to be excited for this one because I'm more excited that I'll be working with more fresh faces, more than the similar ones, because it kind of feels good for me to challenge myself to work with different people. And, you know, but I think we'll be okay with this one because I've met the girls, I've met Ryan, and they seem like a really great bunch of people. And they really do want to do this movie. So let's just hope that, you know, we keep the line straight until the new year.
I like your inspiration for your writing. It's brilliant. Just going back to Pine, are you actually acting in Pine, or have you just written it and directed it?
I actually am not in this one. No, I know. Funny thing, for the first time since. Well, no, I've been in every movie I've done, actually. Yeah, Pine is the one film that I'm not in, and neither's Charlie. In fact, Charlie wasn't really heavily involved with this one. I mean, he is involved with the premiere and other stuff, but he wasn't really fully involved with this one, but nor was he fully involved with Cash in the Pond either. But we don't always have to work on every film together. We tend to, you know, sometimes have to do our own thing if he's too busy and all that. So, you know, we don't always have to do everything together. So with this one, no, Charlie and me, we are not showing our faces in this one, unfortunately. Okay. Although I'm sure that would probably make the audience cry.
I'm secretly gutted. I'm not going to lie. I'm gutted.
but no, but it's got my it's got my storyline, my tone into it. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a Reece Manigan film. So yeah.
No, I'm really looking forward to it. What are your ultimate kind of end goals?
My almost sort of end goals. Oh
Yeah.
wow. Well, it's basically to start making budget films. I mean, obviously, we are trying to start with Bad Influence, me and Charlie. I mean, just recently I showed Charlie the latest script that I wrote for the film, and he loves it. He says this is definitely a potential budget film that we should definitely make, and it's definitely the one that will start off our RC Productions properly. But I'm hoping by next year we can start fully working on it and everything. I mean, we just need the money. It's always about the money with these films, and we need to start finding a way to fund this thing. But we are going to make it. I mean, I always say, look, I'm not gonna let anything stop me. This film is going to get made. I mean, I've had Bad Influence in my head since 2017, and I really, really want this to be my big budget first film release. But until then, I'm going to carry on making portfolio films. Until then, I'm not going to stop, because there's no way that I'll wasting 16 years of filmmaking just because I'm doing all these zero budget films. It doesn't matter, because, like I said, if you've got the right people that want to support you and you're carrying on making these films, then I'm just going to keep going. And even if all those people decide they don't want to do film anymore, then that's a good idea for me to go off and find some new fresh blood to get some into other films. So I don't stop networking. I don't stop looking, and I will carry on. There's no way it's going to stop me.
Good, good. Don't stop. Carry
No.
on. Because you really,
Yeah.
really, really are talented, honestly, as an actor, as a director, as a script writer, and the people that you cast are brilliant for the roles. And I'm very critical. So if there was something I'd say, oh, you need to improve here and here. No, you are brilliant. So don't ever stop, honestly. So
Thank you so
for the
much.
people
Yeah.
watching, where can they find your work, your films, kind of your socials? Where do they go?
Well, my YouTube channel, obviously, what they'll be watching this on. So they can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Reece92. My Instagram is RM film director, I believe. In fact, I will double check on that just really quickly.
RM director.
Don't want to give them the one. Don't want to give them the wrong Instagram name. But I mean, they should. I mean, Instagram is more better for me. If they want to network on there, for me, it's much better for me, because Instagram I'm very active on. Yeah, RM director 92. That's my Instagram. I mean, yeah, I'm more of an Instagram guy, so they should definitely follow me up on that. Because I mean, people say that Twitter is best for networking. It isn't, because you know what? I barely get anything on Twitter, and it's just so boring.
I'm the
But
same.
Instagram, everybody is everywhere. I can talk to people and network with people, and also you can react to their stories and give them positive vibes and everything. That's what I always like to do. I always like to go off and send positive vibes to people, and it works. So yeah, definitely follow me on Instagram the most. That's how you can connect with me.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Reece. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I
It's been a
cannot
pleasure talking to you.
wait to see the rest of your work.
Thank you so much.